Look at that. The acoustic guitar has the bridge and the neck glued in place. Could this be the last episode of the acoustic guitar build? Stick around. What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to this episode of Homebot Workshop. I hope you are having an amazing day. Well, this episode could quite possibly be the last episode of this entire acoustic build process. There's still a fair bit of work, but in the grand scheme of things, there's really not a whole lot left. We need to level the fretboard and put a radius on it. I need to install the frets, make the nut, make the saddle, install the tuners, and drill out and ream the bridge pin holes, and then really string it up and do a final setup. Maybe a couple other things in between there, but that's gonna be my goal for this episode. I wanna hear how this thing sounds, and hopefully you do too. So stick around and watch the entire video all the way to the end. Let's see how far we can get and wrap up this build. Oh, and in case you didn't notice, I am trying out a new camera. My old one that I've been using for the last 10 years is finally on its last leg. So we got a new one here. I don't have it fully figured out yet, but hopefully everything looks okay. Let me know what you think down below in the comments. Oh, hi. Hi. Hey, how's it going? It's looking at my eye. Look at that. All right, we're gonna try this out. Trial by fire. I already have my 14-inch sanding blocks loaded up with fresh sandpaper. I like to try to have a sanding block for each grit. I found that it saves me a lot of time. And also, a lot of times when you get done sanding, the sandpaper is not totally worn out yet. So rather than having to peel it off and try to save it, I just like to have a bunch of different blocks. That way I can just grab the next block and the sandpaper is not worn out. So I'm just gonna start off with some 80 grit. We're gonna work our way on up to 320, maybe even go a little bit higher. We'll see how this flattens out. During the process of leveling the fretboard, the fret slots get really plugged up with sanding dust. I'm gonna use this little curved knife gadget and clean out the fret slots. I wanna make sure they're nice and clean so that I can use a fret slotting saw with a stop and go back and make sure that these are all at the same depth. When you radius the fretboard, you lose a little bit of the depth on the outer edges, so we need to make sure that these are the same depth all the way across. Now we'll bend up some fret wire and get ready to install the frets. I always check the radius that I'm bending it to. I want to make sure that it's a little bit overbent. Since I don't typically glue my frets in, I like to have it overbent. This helps keep it down at the ends of the frets. Now I'll just work my way up the neck, cutting each fret to size. It's a little bit tricky trying to get the length working over the top of the body. Next, I'll go back with this F-style clamp fret press and press all the frets into place. This is the first time I've used this type of a fret press. Normally I fret my electric necks with an arbor press that's been modified to be used as a fret press, but since the neck is already attached to the body, I can't use the arbor press, so this fret press is gonna have to work. It's a little bit tricky, maybe because this is the first time I've used it, but it did take a little bit of messing around to get it figured out. So far, this has got to be the most awkward way to install frets. There's got to be easier ways to do it. Let me know down below your methods for installing frets over the soundboard like this. It gets the job done, kind of. It's so cumbersome and slow. There's got to be 36 other ways to do this easier. I ended up using this clamp press to get everything started, and then I just finished seating everything with a hammer. That might be the ticket right there. Well, I got them all in. That wasn't super convenient, but they're in. I ended up hammering them in. it was way easier than that contraption. I don't know. Again, maybe it's because I'm just kind of not used to this as much as I am my normal arbor press, but that was just too clumsy and clunky. Hammering them in was a lot better. It's a little hard to do again over here because you have nothing to support it with, but I ended up just putting a block of wood in there, carefully tapping the frets in. Might have to go back over it another time just to make sure they're fully seated, but for now they're in, and I'm going to get the ends of these frets smooth, because if you've ever done frets, it's like the ends of them are razor blades. I always get poked and cut and I bleed on stuff. Let's take care of that. I'm using the beveling files that I made in an earlier video. There's a link in the description. The first one has the file mounted at 90 degrees, then I'll switch to the beveled one with the file mounted at 35 degrees. With the frets taken care of, now I'm going to focus a little bit more on the bridge. First, I need to drill the bridge pin holes all the way through to the inside of the guitar body. I'm trying to go really slow and not put any downward pressure, just let the drill bit do the work. Hopefully by doing it this way, I'll eliminate most, if not all, of the tear out. With the holes for the bridge pins drilled, the next step is going to be to ream those to match the same taper that's on the bridge pins. Now, I don't have a bridge pin reamer, but my friend Matt over at Zimbelman Guitars does, so we're going to run this over there to his shop, and I'm going to ream these out to match my pins. I'm also going to add a bridge pin reamer to the shopping list. I'm using a 5-degree tapered reamer to ream these holes because that's what's going to match my bridge pins. I'm taking my time here and going really slow. I'm checking my progress many times along the way because I don't want to go too deep. With the bridge pins reamed, really, it's final assembly time. I have a bone nut and a bone saddle that I need to get fit to these slots. Then we can install the tuners, string this thing up. This nut required just a little bit of thinning to make it fit the slot. And the belt grinder makes quick work of shaping the ends. That is the worst smell in the history of smells. Ugh. And now it's onto the saddle. First I need to cut this one to length. Then I'll slightly round over the edges to match the rounded ends of the saddle slot. Well, I probably should have ordered a taller saddle. That's mighty low down here at the treble end. I'm going to proceed as normal, but I got a feeling I'm going to need to get a taller one. Time for the tuners. And we are so close. I still have to do the fret leveling, get those dressed. I've got to cut the nut slots, and hopefully this saddle's gonna work at least for a test run. Hey, let's try that snappy thing that some of those fancy YouTubers do. Ready? I'll be right back. It never works. The frets still aren't dressed. I guess I'm gonna have to go ahead and do that myself. Well, after working on the setup for a while, I'd like to introduce all of you to the first acoustic guitar. This thing turned out great. Man, what a project. Building all of this, there's so many steps. I think it turned out amazing. But the big question that I'm sure you're asking, and I know I'm curious of, how does it sound? So clear. Wow. I really think I can say, without a doubt, this is the best sounding acoustic guitar I have absolutely, hands down, ever played. Wow. Now my playing style, especially for acoustic, is mostly a rhythm. I'm mainly strumming chords and that sort of thing. I don't really do any sort of finger style or anything like that, but I would love to hear this in the hands of a left-handed finger style player. I can't even express really with words how amazed maybe that I am that this thing sounds so good, and the fact that I assembled it from a pile of sticks and it sounds great. Are there a few flaws here and there? Yeah, there are. There absolutely are. There's a few things that I will be able to take that as learning material and improve on the next ones. But I'm telling you what, it sounds incredible, and I am super happy with this thing. And when I thought this saddle was going to be a little bit too low, it turns out that it's not. Now I do have a little bit of fine tuning to do, a little bit on the nut and probably on the saddle, just adjusting the action here and there, but that's going to come over time. I've got it where it feels pretty good right now, so I'm just going to play this thing for a while, and over time I'll probably work on lowering the action just a tiny bit more. I like my guitars to have a really low action, but with especially an acoustic guitar, if you lower the saddle too much, you can't just turn a couple screws to raise it back up. You either have to shim the saddle or maybe even make a new one. I'm just going to play it where it is. Like I said, it feels really good. I'm going to roll with it for now, and over time I probably will tweak it just a little bit. Oh, and another thing that's pretty cool, I haven't adjusted the truss rod at all. Since I leveled the fretboard, strung it up, it hasn't moved at all. And there's just a tiny bit of relief in the neck, which is what I like. I also like my necks to be pretty flat with the minimal amount of relief. And so far, I haven't had to touch that truss rod, which is pretty cool. Another benefit of the carbon fiber rods. Before I undertook this project, I really kind of almost felt like building something like this was unreachable for me. Although I know that it's just techniques, it's just cutting sticks in the right size and gluing things together in a certain manner. There's something daunting about a project of this magnitude. But now that it's complete, I realize that there's not much myself and you guys can't do. If there's a project that you've been wanting to do that just feels too big, don't be afraid to jump in. Who cares if it takes you a year? This took me almost a year, about 11 months to get done, but it's done, and now it's amazing. So I want to challenge you guys to tackle that project that you've been putting off that has been feeling too overwhelming. Maybe it's too large. Maybe it's a home renovation project or some sort of, whatever that project is for you. I want to challenge you to tackle that project. Jump in, learn what you need to learn to get it done, and just start. Just start. That's what you have to do. That's exactly what I did with this. I need to give a shout out to a few people before we wrap this video up. I need to give a shout out to my buddy Thomas for sending me the kit or the pieces that he prepared for me and challenging me to build this instrument. I also need to give a huge shout out to Mr. Eric Schaefer of Eric Schaefer Guitars. His online guitar building course was a ginormous wealth of information and helped me a ton along the way. Also, I need to give another shout out to my friend Matt over at Zimbelman Guitars. Matt's a local luthier, and he offered me a lot of assistance, answered a bazillion questions, and I even got to use a few of his tools that I don't yet have. So a huge thank you to Thomas, to Eric, and to Matt. Thank you guys. Without your help, I would have never been able to finish this. That being said, I'm gonna go play this thing for a while. If you guys want to see, or maybe you haven't seen any of the episodes leading up to this step, there's a playlist down below in the description. Make sure you're also subscribed to the YouTube channel because this is not going to be the only guitar. I've already got a few parts that I've been setting aside that are going to go toward number 2. Number 2 probably won't be as in-depth of a series as this one, but I am going to be starting on that one probably before too long, so thanks a lot for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this one. Man, I can't tell you how stoked I am. We'll see you next time.